So I have chapter 10, it's, ecological interdependence and the spread of infectious disease. So it was pretty much about like all the like disease outbreaks and how it affects globalization and also the economy, everyone dying. I have a Kahoot
Love.
that I would like to play with you. Here's the game pin. Right here. So
I want to get
if everyone's just joining.
two of us. My name on there.
So there's two players. Start.
Might as well. Jan Sauer.
Okay, so question one, where did the swine flu outbreak begin? Oh, alright.
Where's Veracruz?
So you guys got it wrong.
Yes.
It's not Mexico, it's not the US. It's in Veracruz, which is down south. 0-0. What is the WHO?
True.
Alright, so we both got it right. It's the World Health Organization. Next question. What does the World Health Organization do? Alright, so the World Health Organization deals with international public health, and they like try to reduce like the spread of diseases. Like they give announcements and like
They got like vaccines. And
vaccines. Yeah, they try to control it. Which government kept swine flu as a top secret? As top secret.
Imagine probably like the U.S., China.
Yeah, it wasn't the U.S. China. They kept it top secret and did not let any of their population know
What? So like there
that
wasn't
swine
outbreak?
flu was outbreaking.
Wow.
But people would come in with cases, and there was doctors that were trying to treat people, but the government kept it top secret. What was early human population life like? Was it spread out or densely populated? It was spread out into thousands of like clans, tribes, and kingdoms. It's like back in the day.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Is it better to be densely populated or spread out?
I'd say it's like probably spread out.
Spread out. Why?
Less spread of disease, probably. Like people are coming in less contact. Like it's like when it's dense, they like cough or like everybody's close together.
Yeah,
Over
if
shoulder.
it's a densely populated area, everything's like really compact
And
and
like touching each other.
yeah, disease can spread really fast.
This was pretty densely populated.
What caused the European famine? After European expansion, it was like densely populated. It's like
Yeah. Can you explain
Like,
what
kinda
the
like what I
European
just
famine is?
what?
What was the famine? European famine.
It was so densely populated, like after they expanded, that they like were running out of food. That's what a famine is. When was the European plague, otherwise known as the Black Death?
I know this one. Yes.
It was 1345. So.
Still in Paris.
How much of Europe's population was trimmed due to the plague? So the correct answer is 40%. So after the European plague,
Didn't read.
40% of their population was reduced,
Wow. It's a lot.
which also contributes to their economy. Because if you lose 40% of your population, you're not making like the economies. I mean, you're
Slow.
losing 40% of the economy almost.
Getting real slow.
So, yeah. What leads to the outbreaks of new disease and resurgence of old ones? So yeah, it's all the above, which is international travel. So like you're bringing diseases to different areas that might not have been there. Growing bacterial resistance to antibiotics. So as bacteria develops, they are able to develop resistance to like vaccines and antibiotics. Change of human behavior and settlement patterns. So it's like how we like where we settle and like how we go about doing it can create new diseases and like find old ones that we otherwise would not have like made come back. Along with disease and pathogens, what else wreaks havoc among populations? Plants and animals, dogs and cats, invasive species. Correct.
Cat. Wait, I mean plants.
Correct answer is plants and animals, but invasive species is like what that is. Basically, it's like when you bring plants or animals to other countries that they do not belong.
They dominate the rest of the population.
Yeah, for example, the African honeybee,
Mm.
a very aggressive bee with a large stinger, and it was introduced in Brazil,
Yeah,
and it spread more south into like
Argentina.
it spread out like where it shouldn't have been. Like it shouldn't have even been in Brazil, and they take over invasive species. They can take over other species. Densely packed areas. High risk of disease or no risk. As just like kind of like what most of the chapter was about was like spread of disease in densely packed areas.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So now video. I gotta find real quick. Here it is. Dang. Here it is.
By 2050, we need to
I love TED Eds.
We live in an interconnected and increasingly globalized world. Thanks to international jet travel, people and the diseases they carry can be in any city on the planet in a matter of hours.
Matter of hours.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
And once the virus touches down, sometimes all it takes is one sneeze to spread the infection throughout the community.
That's pretty scary.
When humans were hunter-gatherers roaming the wild savannas, we were never in one place long enough, and settlements were not large enough to sustain the transmission of infectious microbes. But with the advent of the agricultural revolution 10,000 years ago, and the arrival of permanent settlements in the Middle East, people began living side by side with animals, facilitating the spread of bacteria and viruses between cattle and humans. Epidemics and pandemics come in many shapes and forms. In 2010, for instance, a devastating earthquake struck Haiti, forcing thousands of people into temporary refugee camps. Within weeks, the camps had become breeding grounds for cholera, a bacteria spread by contaminated water, triggering a countrywide epidemic. But the most common cause of epidemics are viruses such as measles, influenza, and HIV. And when they go global, we call them pandemics. Pandemics have occurred throughout human history. Some have left scars on the tissue and bone of their victims, while evidence for others comes from preserved DNA. For instance, scientists have recovered DNA from the bacteria that transmits tuberculosis from the remains of ancient Egyptian mummies. And in 2011, scientists investigating a plague pit in the city of London were able to reconstruct the genome of Yersinia pestis, the bacterium responsible for the Black Death of the 14th century. It is thought the plague originated in China in around 1340, spreading west along the Silk Road, the caravan route running from Mongolia to the Crimea. In 1347, the plague reached the Mediterranean, and by 1400, it had killed in excess of 34 million Europeans, earning it the title, the Great Mortality. It was later historians who called it the Black Death. However, by far the greatest pandemic killer is influenza. Flu is constantly circulating between the southern and northern hemispheres. In North America and Europe, seasonal flus occur every autumn and winter. As the majority of children and adults will have been exposed to the virus in previous seasons, these illnesses are usually mild. However, every 20 to 40 years or so, the virus undergoes a dramatic mutation.
I know that.
Usually this occurs when a wild flu virus circulating in ducks and farm poultry meets a pig virus and they exchange genes. This process is known as antigenic shift and has occurred throughout human history. The first recorded pandemic occurred in 1580. The 18th and 19th centuries saw at least 6 further pandemics. In terms of mortality, none can compare with the Great Flu pandemic of 1918. The first indication of the pandemic came in the spring, when American troops in northern France began complaining of chills, headaches, and fever. Then, the following September, at a US Army barracks near Boston, soldiers started collapsing on.
Alright, so yeah, I thought that was a good video to kind of show the chapter,
Yeah.
pretty much, because it shows like how the pandemics and epidemics can be spread so easily. And as the video says, like it's mostly like when people are traveling or like the soldiers are overseas, they're not used to that kind of condition, and they get sick really quickly and it spreads, and then when they come back, you know, they bring it back with them. And also when they brought up how the flu can like be mutated every 40 years when it mixes with a different kind, like that's how the swine flu came. People mixed it with what was the one with the poultry one? What was
The pigs and the poultry, I forget what it's
that? No,
called.
what was it? What's that disease?
Swine flu.
The eggs.
The eggs.
I'm not aware of that one.
We'll move on.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, that's pretty much all I got today. I hope you learned a lot.